Right, gentlemen, we continue. I think that is why the earlier also the internet signal went down, because I think maybe the voltage came down and then the power went off completely. Anyway, now we are on generator, so we should be okay for some time. And synthetics, we have already done. Now the hot oils. Earlier we saw that the three kinds of thermal oils which we use. One of them is synthetics. Then the other one is hot oils. The hot oils is the what we were talking about earlier, the mineral oil based ones. So when crude oil is extracted from the earth, it contains a vast mixture of organic compounds, which range. I think somebody's. Yeah. Okay. It contains a vast mixture of organic compounds which range from very light hydrocarbons to extremely high molecular weight species. So he's talking about the crude oil when it comes out of the ground, and when it is transported to a refinery, and then in the refinery it goes into your fractional distillation, and your fractional distillation there are various cuts. The first cut is like your the first cut is your light fractions. That is all the lighter fractions, they evaporate first, then your the slightly heavier functions, and then there's a lube oil cut. And then after the lube oil cut, the lube oil cut, what he means is the mineral oil cut. And then finally the heavier fractions, not fractions, that should be fractions. The heavier fractions, that is your heavy fuel oil and your asphalt, the bitumen, which we use are hot oils. The base oil for this hot oils, what he's calling as the hot oil type of thermal oil, it comes from this lube oil cut from the fractional distillation. And after further refining, the hot oils are selected depending on the viscosity requirement, what the oil is, what temperature range is the oil is going to be used for. Some of them they may be being used for, say, heating up to 300 degrees centigrade, and some of them, like we saw, the low temperature ones, that could be used for temperatures for cooling to temperatures below zero, or and the same oil could be up to used for heating up to 100 degrees centigrade. But the other ones, thermal oils, which we normally use on board, the so-called hot oils, that means they are used for high temperature, and they are selected for viscosity, and they are branded and marketed as heat transfer fluids. And overall bulk fluid temperature operating range of the petroleum based fluids is from minus 20 degrees centigrade to just over 300. So you may not have the same oil which is doing duty from minus 20 degrees to 300. You could have various kind of hot oils, various kind of mineral oil based thermal oils which are doing this job. Advantage over synthetics, since synthetics are man-made, obviously they will be expensive. Ease of handling and disposal. Ease of handling, I don't know, maybe there are some this thing which we don't know about. There are some issues regarding handling hot oils versus synthetic, which we don't know about. But disposal, definitely. Hot oil, since it is completely what do you say, crude oil based thing. So the disposal of that would be easier as compared to something which is man-made as synthetics. In addition, the petroleum-based fluids do not form hazardous degradation byproducts or have an offensive odor, and therefore most spent hot oils can be disposed of easily. However, hot oils, they are less thermally stable at elevated temperatures as they contain a high degree of. So this we already know that at high temperatures, hot oils will mineral oil based thermal fluid will tend to start cracking up or tend to start carbonizing, whereas a synthetic will not do that. And being more reactive chemically than the more highly refined petroleum products, they are more susceptible to oxidative degradation. So that means the mineral oil based thermal fluids, they are also more susceptible to exposure to oxygen in the atmosphere. And then you have the silicon based fluids. They are primarily used in very specialized applications requiring process or product compatibility, and their performance and cost factor, obviously cost factor is pretty high because they are very specialized applications, and they're made for very specialized duties. So obviously their performance is also pretty cost factor also pretty high. And for especially for our onboard duties, silicon based other specialty fluids we don't want, because the sheer volume of oil that we need on board or in a factory, it would make it pretty uneconomical to use this kind of fluids. Properties of thermal fluid: when we have to select a thermal oil, fire safety is dependent on three measurements. For example, flash point, fire point, and auto ignition temperature. When we are selecting a thermal oil, we have to be very careful that the thermal oil that we, the flash point of that is considerably higher than the flash point, considerably higher than the operating temperature at which at its normal operating temperature. Same thing applies to auto ignition temperature. Then we need to also look at its thermal stability. This is your operational criteria. The thermal stability of an oil or fluid is simply defined, and its inherent ability to withstand molecular cracking from heat stress. This is especially your thermal oils, which are mineral oil based. That means they are crude oil based. They will, at high temperatures, they will start cracking up. This molecular cracking due to heat stress. So when we are selecting a thermal oil, we have to make sure that the cracking does not occur at the temperatures at which we want the thermal oil to work. The molecular cracking should be at a much higher temperature. The efficiency of heat transfer, the heat transfer efficiency comparisons between heat transfer oils are made using heat transfer coefficients. The higher the heat transfer coefficient, the greater the oil's ability to conduct and transfer heat. The oil should be able to absorb heat very quickly in the heater or the boiler or the oil fired electric heater or the oil fired heater, and it should be able to give up its heat easily. That means it should be a very good uh, conductor of heat and give. It would if it does not give off its heat easily, that we have to do the same amount of heat transfer. The amount And here we come to a representative diagram of a thermal oil cycle. So this is a positive displacement. Then for expansion, excuse me, for expansion we have a flexible pipe over here, so which is something like an expansion joint. Then it goes to the heater. Now your heater here, most likely they're looking at a electric heater, with the same type of heater could also be a oil fired heater. So from the heater it goes to your electronic temperature control, so that the heating is controlled accordingly. Then from here it goes out through gate valve. Here he is mentioning 150 pound flange. That depends on what process, and that depends from the pressures that at which we are operating. That could be different, mainly due to the head. If you are pumping it all the way up to the exhaust boiler and then back again, so we will require piping and flanges and jointing of that rating, that it can take that amount of head going up all the way to the exhaust boiler and back again. Heat exchanger, which is optional. So in case we want to cool it down, but here he has fitted the heat exchanger on the outlet side of the heater, which maybe he's got some. Maybe the heat exchanger is there for maintaining the temperature. In case the temperature outside is, temperature of the outlet is very high. I think is what I think. In case the temperature is very high, they get down, or maybe it is used to heat up the water. I think the second option which I mentioned, that is a more likely scenario. It is used to heat up the water, and the water is used for various purposes. But somebody had said that in his on board his ship, he had a cooler for the thermal oil which is returning back. Why was it required? I'd be interested to know that. Hello, can you all hear me? No, my question was, somebody had mentioned, on board his ship, the thermal oil, it had a cooler. The thermal oil was cooled before, the return thermal oil was cooled before sending it back to the heater. So what exactly was the requirement for the cooler? Maybe there was some special requirement. Obviously, there would be some requirement. That's why they fitted the cooler. That requirement would be specific to that ship. So what exactly was the requirement? Who had asked this question? Tesfaun? Yeah, Eob.
Sir, this is Tesfaun. It's not my question. It was Eob's question. But what I guess is that the pump, the circulating pump, it should have to be work in some limited temperature. Yeah. So let's say if the high temperature, it can affect the motor also. Maybe because of that, it needs to be cool. This is just my thinking. But Eob, maybe he knows more because he's working in that kind of place.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Eob, it'll be interesting to know why the cooler was fitted, because as you can see in this particular diagram, it does not make much of a sense. In fact, you will be losing heat by fitting a cooler. So maybe, of course, like I said, on that particular ship, the cooler was fitted. The owner had spent money. Obviously, means that the cooler was required for some purpose. Any idea what that purpose was?
Yes, this is how Tasfon said, yeah, to prevent the pump from overheating. That was the main purpose. The second one is this during this circulation, it's also it will, if we have too much temperature difference between the circulating oil and this expansion on the thermal oil, and the loss of it, transfer of it between this the makeup oil and the already circulating pump will be high. Therefore, in order to minimize the temperature difference, we use the cooler. But the main purpose is to prevent the pump from damage due to overheating. So the main purpose.
Okay.